All right, now let's get analysis. We're joined via Zoom by political analyst Professor Barry Hanyane. Professor Hanyane, thank you so much for your time and for staying on this afternoon following that address by the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, what's your take in terms of what was said in this January 8th statement? I mean, was there something new that was said, something that had to be said, or was this a reiteration of just the fundamentals that we are seeing in the country happening at the moment?
Yeah. Good afternoon to you, dear. Good afternoon to your viewers. Look, I think overall this was a lackluster presentation, short of giving us the creative solutions that we were looking forward to. I think the general public is exposed to the level of consciousness of the number of challenges that the country is facing. For instance, the issue of the state capture, possible consequences thereof, and of course, the implications that it has in terms of the functioning, effective and efficient functioning of government. What I find very, very bizarre about today's presentation was that it was short of giving us scientific solutions. That's what we're interested in. Give us solutions, give us timelines, give us some kind of hope that indeed through the ANC, government is committed to resolve issues of unemployment, to resolve issues of corruption, maladministration, inefficiency of the public service overall. But today, I think somehow a lot of people went to sleep in the middle of the speech, not knowing exactly what tomorrow holds for the country.
Particular address, a lot of our analysts were saying that, the ANC now needs to act outside of business as usual. They need to have some form of urgency and use everything and take everything as critical. Let's talk now about the events that happened just before the January 8th statement, particularly the latest event that we saw last night at the gala dinner. The SABC team, journalists that were on the ground, spoke to some NEC members who were very concerned, saying this looks like some sort or some form of security threat or even a sabotage. Just talking about the recent events that led to the January 8th statement, what can we make of what is happening? Are there some security threats, particularly against the president?
Perhaps before we touch directly on the issue of security threats, could there be an open mutiny? Let's borrow that word from the military space. Could there be some internal skirmish within the ANC that says they are unhappy with the current leadership? They are in a position to disrupt the comfort zone of the current leadership, and they're willing to do whatever it takes, whether it's deliberately flaunting your COVID-19 regulations on the part of the Women's League, or whether it's a question of disrupting what was supposed to be a smooth running campaigning, using obviously the gala dinner to raise much needed funds. It's something to ponder seriously upon. I don't want to buy into the pretext that it was out of fate. These things happened because it was beyond human control. I think there is a sinister force that may be trying at least to operate. It might not have the tactics, the power, and the influence as things stand. But yeah, there are indeed signs that somebody somewhere is unhappy and willing to register that unhappiness in all manner of forms.
Now, let's interrogate some of the things that he said and was obviously expected of him. Of course, the January 8th statement does come after the first report of the Zondo Commission. Now, on state capture itself, President Cyril Ramaphosa said not only was state capture a systematic attempt at siphoning off, public resources and funds, it also destroyed the capabilities of the state and led to the departure of capable people from public institutions, when they resisted state capture. But of course, we know this. Essentially, what we would like to see is prosecutions. How likely is this going to happen? How, committed is the ANC in terms of making sure that even some of the leaders within their rank that are implicated, are brought to book?
This is what today's speech lacked. It lacked, as you rightly put it, that sense of agency. It came short to assuring the public that indeed there's appetite, not only in government, but in the party itself, which is likely to be affected by a number of fallouts. Already we know that a number of key important leaders in the party have been fingered. Now, come to think of it, we're short of 2 reports that are coming. How big is this damage as soon as the outstanding reports are put on the table? It's anybody's guess. Could this be a certification of putting the ANC on a death knell, of which, by the way, it's quite interesting. The president is on a denial path to say analysts, commentators are of the view that the ANC is on its knees, and rightly so. It is because it is what we see, it is what we analyze. Evidence is in front of us to suggest very strongly that the future of the ANC is at stake here.
I mean, you mentioned the word, that he is, in fact, in denial. And I know that, Deputy President Mabuza also reiterating essentially what we heard today, saying that the ANC is very much alive and the ANC is leading. We're heading to the elective, conference at the end of this year. Just going into the January 8th statement, we've heard utterances from various, stakeholders saying that they're endorsing second term for Cyril Ramaphosa. What are we likely to expect and see come December 2022?
Well, let's go back to 2017. If you remember, it was the Deputy President himself, Didi Mabuza, who said he's leaving Nelspruit on Mbombela, going to Nasrec to vote for this persona called unity, only to realize he was that persona. He was that face. So he got everybody fooled. Are we again going through the same tactics 2022? We've got to watch this one now very carefully to say what tactics are going to be employed. Will there be tactics that will be misleading? Will it be tactics that says everybody has a right to contest? Let's not forget again, the IEC is reforming the electoral process. We await for the first time in the history of this country post-1994 to have independent candidates contesting the elections for the first time. It requires a lot of resources, but maybe there will be a surprise there and there to say, here are some individuals who want to take the ANC head on. As individuals, we'll have to watch that space as well. But within the ANC, it's open sesame for contestation, fault lines are drawn, and yes, people like Mama Bulo coming from this province, gunning for the deputy president position. I think everybody now would want to participate in that space. One faction has also touted the name of Mr. Mutsipe as a potential candidate. Whether he has interest in politics, we'll have to watch that space as well. So it's going to be a heated issue. The room temperature has started to rise, not yet there, but let's watch this space overall.
I mean, one of the things that the ANC has been accused of not doing very well is going into that national conference where, decisions are made, but essentially they're not followed through, they're not implemented. Is there a need for them to look at how they are structured going into that conference? What are the practicalities of the things that they need to take, specifically as we begin to look at decision-making, implementing policies, and also if you start talking about the ANC having to free itself of factionalism and promoting a space for, leadership thinking. Is there a sort of framework they should be adopting and not, again, I'm going to use that word, taking it as business as usual going into that conference in December?
Two things for me are critical and very imperative in this instance. Let's go back to the 27th November 2021 open letter by the Thabo Mbeki Foundation. 4 issues are raised there. The issue of creating a capable state, the issue of renewal. or you see, the problem is the ANC seems to be comfortable to expose concepts that in any nature promote rhetoric. That time has come and gone. We want to see science. We want to see substance. We want to see a body of knowledge that says within the ANC there are capable men and women who are able to think in terms of providing practical solutions that are implementable. Then you can start saying, right, the party must then modernize, use technology, make sure that men who are thinkers are brought to the fore. But most importantly, going forward, implement the decisions that are taken, not only in conferences, but also in the NEC meetings that are somewhat of a leeway in providing strategic decisions that will assist the party to grow. But as things stand, I'm afraid the issue of leadership vacuum will always haunt this party.
Prof Hanyane, another big element that came out was obviously the question of the land issue. Now, we were listening to EFF President Julius Malema in his Siyabonga rally in KZN. Now, he says their message as far as the EFF is concerned in terms of the land issue is clear, and it's not like the ANC's message, which is not clear. He says the party wants expropriation of land without compensation. Now, we saw, obviously, that motion that the ANC brought into Parliament fail. Where is the ANC getting it wrong here as it relates to land?
They were in a honeymoon mode since 1994. They should have. This is the to-do list that should have received priority post 1994. They could have gone a number of ways through negotiations, through making sure that your willing buyer, willing seller becomes a workable mechanism. It is because of the demise of that mechanism which has brought us to where we are today. Had they provided policy solutions that were workable, by and large, it could have eaten up some of the complexities and perhaps the entire problem as things stand, and making sure that the next generation will not have to go through the challenges and the burden of not getting access to land. But unfortunately, there was a lax moment. Unfortunately, some of the tactics used from a policy perspective did not work out for them. And here they are, back to the drawing boards. And I'm wondering whether once again there is internal capacity to assist the party in ensuring that this long generational problem will ever find a solution under the sun.
The party went into this January 8th statement without its Secretary General, of course. He's under suspension. How do we start to look at, that dynamic and that relationship, particularly as provinces go into their own, conferences leading up to, of course, the national conference at the end of the year?
Yeah, it speaks to the handicapped nature of the party as things stand. Deputy Secretary General sick, unfortunately, and I think she's also overburdened. Look, fresh from the elections, mistakes were done, certain decisions were not taken, almost leading to losing close to about 96 municipalities because of not meeting deadlines. So overall, organizational capacity is suspect within the party, and more so at Luthuli House. What more about branches that the president, for the first time for quite some time, has admitted that some branches are non-functional. All of this compound and speaks to perhaps a weak organizational capacity, which the ANC can ill afford at this stage when they want to punt principles of renewal, of internal observation of a kind, and of course regenerating a party through business regeneration that will lead its supporters and its fans towards the next 40 to 50 years, which I suspect as things stand is more of a dream than rather a reality waiting to be realized.
And now, you speak about these principles of renewal and so on. just ahead of the January 8th statement, before the president addressed, his members and the party's members, we saw various, leaders from the ANC, both provincially and nationally, coming to speak out, including the tripartite alliance, of the party. But the ANC Women's League, the ANC Youth League, and the Veterans League did not make any address this time around. What can we make of that? We understand that they were not allowed to, in fact, deliver a message.
Let's borrow the words of the president himself. These are embarrassing franchises to the organization. And it's no surprise that they were not given the theater to dance and be part of the celebration.
In fact, he said the ANC Youth League was an embarrassment for the past 2 years. In fact, that's what he said yesterday.
By extension, you can throw it on the other franchises as well and say, Women's League, are things okay there? I doubt. I mean, here is a franchise, in my view, it should have given us hope that the ANC will one day have a woman president who, obviously, by extension, will become the first female president of the Republic. And that opportunity came and it went away. So much the same with the veterans, issues there. Do they understand their role? What mandate do they have? Or they're just there to give color as and when there's political marches and rallies. These are issues that seriously the ANC must ponder on and give at least the nation the confidence and the hope that indeed here is a party that has the right mettle and perhaps acumen to actually go through the path of renewal.
One of the things that, people have been watching, and I don't think this is actually just on the ANC, but most political parties, is how you treat your members will obviously also speak to how you treat, the country. So when we start to talk about the ANC's financials, I mean, I don't know if this was an observation that you made yesterday, last night, when the president was, addressing business people, thanking them for their donations. One would have expected him to also talk about, the ANC staff members who have not been paid essentially some 2 to 3 months. One would have expected him to mention that this would come in very handy in terms of patching out, those salaries. But he didn't talk about that. And I found it to be unfortunate, an opportunity that he should have taken, that one that shows probably leadership and to a certain extent empathy.
Yeah. It's all about politics. I think he is trying to do damage control overall, and unfortunately, he's not mastering that very well, especially given the fact that it's not about salaries alone. If you listen to the disgruntled, affected members, it also goes as far as working conditions themselves. How professional are these? How conducive are these conditions to allow those volunteers, those full-time staffers, to contribute wholeheartedly their skills, their time, their energy in making sure that the ANC becomes an oiled machine? I think that's the difficult. And going forward, this problem has been allowed to compound the capacity of the ANC itself. You can't have quick solutions by raising funds through gala dinner, and tomorrow you expect that the coffers will automatically resolve all these problems. Notwithstanding the legal problems that the party is experiencing. Elsewhere, there are serious expenses, there are serious liabilities that needs to be covered as well. Where will the money come from? We'll have to watch this space, but I'm afraid more problems are likely to come from the side of the party from that front.
Prof, as we wrap this interview, I mean, just your final thoughts. We've been obviously talking about just some of the glaring problems that have been plaguing the party for some time now, for years. But the ANC is not just, a political party. It's a liberation movement. Now, having to look at its rich 110 years, into existence, talk to me about the fundamentals that they probably bore then, when they were established, that they could be really using now in order to, as the president says, to lead.
Let's borrow the immortal words of its own champion, at least one of its own champions, the late Reginald Tambo, who warned his own comrades that if they think waging a liberation war against the apartheid regime, it's easy. They need to wait until they get into government, because things will then suddenly get complicated, more complex. And indeed, his words did not fall down. So this prophecy is something that this organization is living up to it. And sadly, the scorecard tells a different story. Issues of state capture, issues of malfeasance, maladministration. 1st of November results are not a fluke. People have spoken. They are unhappy about the organization overall. And until such time that there are changes, serious structural changes, I have little hope that the legacy, the much touted organization that is seen as the champion of the hopes of the people is likely to lose that status overnight. Some people are saying it has lost it, but then given the benefit of doubt, whether this leadership or coming leadership will rescue the situation, it's something to ponder upon.
Prof Hanyane, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate your analysis.
Thank you so much.